Hi, it's Natasha Trenev, and thank you for joining us today. I'm so privileged and extremely happy to introduce a functional medicine practitioner, Dr. Nishtha Patel, who has her clinic in London and is a good friend of mine, and Ginny Patel Thompson as well from Listen to Your Gut. And today we're going to be discussing IBS and IBD, and it's a complex or a simple issue. IBS is a non-inflammatory condition, which means irritation along the 27 feet of your intestinal wall, and it means that the foods that are transgressing into your bloodstream are causing irritation with the immune system, and it can end up in constipation or diarrhea, mood upsets, all kinds of things that makes us unhappy. Unfortunately, when it becomes an inflammatory bowel disease, now you've got inflammation, and the immune system is actually destroying cells on your intestinal wall because it perceives an attack, and the way it protects the body is to destroy defective parts. So that's sort of a short explanation, and I'm happy to talk to Nishtha today because she has been using nature and probiotics in her practice, and I think she has a wonderful story to tell. So I'll let her say a little bit about herself and her practice, and then tell us her story and her experience. So Nishtha, the floor is yours.
Hi, Natasha. So lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. So I am a functional medicine practitioner and clinical nutritionist. Practicing, I do mainly online now, and I do IBS, IBD, so inflammatory bowel disease, and IBS. And my story started in 2010 when my own child suddenly, on a vacation to Alaska, developed symptoms of IBD, which was really, really scary. We came back to the UK and she was diagnosed with proctitis, which then became colitis. And I did everything the doctors asked me to do, but we were given medicine after medicine after medicine and medicine to counteract the medicine. For a 14-year-old to go from 14 to 16, I mean, she looked like she went from a beautiful young lady to she looked like a little old lady by the time those 2 years of all those meds were up. And then I kept asking the doctors, come on, there's got to be something. Can diet help? Can probiotics help? Can supplements help? No. You've just got to keep trying until we hit the right medicines. We were on chemotherapy drugs. We were on steroids. When the biologics came, I was like, that's it. I've done everything I can. I need to now start investigating. So that's when I came across Ginny Patel Thompson's book, Listen to Your Gut. And I started implementing things in there very, very slowly. And she started getting better. And it's not the right thing to do, and I don't advocate anybody to do it, but I sort of started weaning her off her medication very, very slowly as her symptoms got better. The doctor then did a colonoscopy and said to me, congratulations, Mrs. Patel, the medicine's finally working. At which point I had to tell him that we hadn't been giving her any. He said, how long? How long has she not had it? And I said, 9 months. And he said, this is like witchcraft. If this child loses her colon, this is going to be down to you and I. And I said, with all due respect, doctor, we tried everything. And you've just told me that the colonoscopy is crystal clear. So maybe I can help you. Maybe we can help other children, because do you want to know what I've done? Like, maybe we can do some research. And he said, not in this lifetime. And he walked away. And so then I decided that I needed to know more and learn more. So I went to the College of Naturopathic Medicine in London, and I did a 3-year course in clinical nutrition. And as soon as I finished that, I got a job at the London Clinic of Nutrition, where I started helping other patients. And then I came to America to do functional medicine. And so that is my story. But reading Ginny's book I did use a lot of Natron probiotics, and they were game changing. So, but it wasn't just that. There was lots of things we had to do, and this is the kind of thing we do with patients now too.
Well, and when you started, I think one of the hallmarks of what Ginny's discovered in using our powdered probiotics, like the Megadophilus, the Bifidobacter, and the Digestolac, is that you're able to start in very small amounts to build up tolerance. Because when you become so irritated, or I should say your digestive tract becomes so irritated, everything becomes a problem. You can't nourish your body because it reacts to everything. And we see what we call a withering away of the body. You almost start looking like a Biafra victim because the body is not able to rebuild itself, and the body does rebuild itself every year. So I think that's one of the things that people need to understand, that the way I formulate the products, I choose the bacteria that evolved with human beings from the very beginning, Homo sapiens. And they've been in the literature for 100 years or more. And before the 1990s, if a product in the United States did not have acidophilus, nobody wanted to buy it. Nobody knew what a probiotic was. I actually introduced the whole category in 1982. And for 20 years, nobody knew what I was really talking about. And the reason I expanded it to probiotics is because I discovered the importance of bifidobacteria for the large intestine, which of course contains the colon. And I only added microbes that I felt were absolutely essential to the well-being of the patient. And interestingly enough, after being 40 years in the probiotic field, I find that our 2 lactobacilli stimulate other important bacteria, but at the right level for the human being, and that the bifidobacteria do stimulate other bacteria in the large intestine to produce butyrate, which is a very important substance to heal the gastrointestinal tract if there is a problem. So it takes a lot of thinking, and you have to be extremely disciplined, because the temptation is there to sell those products that the people think are good for them. And we know this in functional medicine, in clinical nutrition, that you can't always tell people what they want to hear. You have to tell them what they need to hear. And there's a big difference. And the ones who are ethical will maintain what it is the patient needs to hear, or the person who's seeking your help, and not necessarily what they want to hear.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you can layer them, because when I get my IBS people, I will start them on your Life Start, just little pinches at a time, because I'm always worried about herx. Sometimes, when they're in a really bad state, they can herx, which means they'll react. But the fact that you've got powders and you can do titrate pinch by pinch, or a lot of my IBD patients who've got like diarrhea, I can start them on Bifido, but if they're really bad, I'll start them on Life Start, the Infantus, and we titrate and we layer, and then we can add in after, they get more used to it, we can add in a little bit more of like the next one up, and the Megadophilus, and then the Digestolac, and then eventually Healthy Trinity. And I love the fact that the Healthy Trinity comes encapsulated with the oils, because no other companies do that. And that was like amazing, because that the strains are not going to touch, which is so important. And Natron have got all the strains listed on them. We know that you follow all the manufacturing guidelines, and most companies don't have any of that. So, and that's why I think Natron, and like you said, they're human strain. There's so many plus sides, but I have not found anything close to Natron. And I've had one lady with really bad reactive arthritis who she couldn't take much at all, but the Natron just turned it around. It's not just gut things. There's Proteus in the gut, which could cause inflammation in the joints, but a lot of people don't know that. Then your probiotics actually help signal, the immune system to start causing the inflammation to come down.
Well, my whole concept is that our products were not developed to treat symptoms. Our products were developed to give the body the tools to heal itself. And the healing really depends on the individual. As we've talked before, that, the only thing that's alien to our body are the microbes. They're not really part of us. We've become a hybrid of microbes and human cells. In our GI tract alone, we have about 100 trillion microbes that line at 27 feet, and we are made up of 50 trillion human cells. And that has to form a symbiosis or a unity, a function for the body to be healthy. And what I tell people, we were not designed to fail. We were designed to live at least 120, some even claim 150 years. But I said, who wants to be 100 and look like a dried up prune and not able to function? I certainly don't want to be around to look like that and not be able to function. So I think the whole point of this change in thinking with diet, with the proper probiotics, with exercise, and I do believe in meditation. I believe meditation is very important in this day and age.
Super, super important. I mean, when we get patients coming in, we're looking at everything. Like there's a 40-page intake form. I'm looking at which systems in the body are out of sync, what's their sleep patterns like, what are their stress levels like, and meditation, sunlight, all the things that should be naturally there need to be looked at. Vitamin D levels are low, that sleep patterns are off, stress levels are so high. So meditation is super, super important, or some form of just getting that heart rate variability in the right place. Yeah. And that profound effect on the gut too.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that we're not interacting with each other, that people don't have family, that we we don't have this close-knit society where people just sit down and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and talk to each other. When I was growing up, I'm going to date myself. I am 76 years old.
You look amazing.
Thank you. When I was in my younger years, we used to have coffee houses and people used to hang out and talk to each other. You didn't have to call up 20 people, text and so forth. Oh, do you have 2 hours on such and such a date? Can we see each other? And you have to spend like hours coordinating times. You would just go to the coffee house and invariably one of your 20 friends would show up and you'd have a great time. And you could stick around.
We used to have meals together, didn't we? Everybody ate at the dinner table. Now lots of people are eating in front of the TV. That's another thing I have to you're looking at people's lifestyles as to what caused them to get ill in the first place. And I always tell, don't eat al desco, because how many people eat at the desk and they're doing and stuff. But families used to sit together and mealtime was quite precious. All of a lot of that's gone now. And
you know what? We used to have a hard fast rule here at our home that we all sit down at the dinner table at 6. There's no distraction, no TV, no phones, and we talk. It's family time.
We had the same.
Yeah, and you know what? This is not part of my education for the healthy gut, but it is part of my education for a healthy body, and which produces a healthy gut. That I tell people, sit down, don't wolf down foods, eat slowly, chew every bite 10 times. And swallow. Your body is not a trash can, so don't shovel food in it and just dump, because your poor stomach, you dump all this food. Digestion happens in the mouth, especially people who are compromised and want to take our products. I tell them, listen, when you sit down, get all this stuff that is taking your attention away. Focus on the food and that you're nourishing your body, and give thanks and be happy for that.
Yeah, smelling food, take time to appreciate it, chew it so well. I mean, I always say digestion starts in the brain, because you think about it, or you walk past that bakery and your eyes are looking at it, and then you go in and then you buy it and you smell it, or whatever it is, that bread or whatever, and then they eat it. And then, your brain's still got to produce that saliva and the amylates. But then if you're eating so fast, there's not enough hydrochloric acid there to break, because your stomach doesn't have teeth. So you then end up creating more problems down the line, because the particles are not broken down or digested, dissolved enough, and it causes problems further south.
That's right. And I'm also saying that our foods have become contaminated, and this business of everybody being allergic to wheat, being allergic to dairy. And I said, we really have to look at that, because if you come from a culture where you had wheat, you had dairy part of your heritage, and now you can't eat it, it's to the point where people will become allergic to everything. And I think we have to rethink everything. Because I think in the United States, the hybridization of wheat and then the GMO of wheat, and plus wheat is kept in silos where fungus is allowed to grow.
Mold
and those
thing.
The mold is really a problem, because the mold is causing a lot of these food allergies and reaction to foods. And I think the fact that I hear so many, especially young people, tell me that when they travel to Italy or France or somewhere else in Europe, they're able to eat the bread. They don't get a reaction. They're able to have the milk. They don't get a reaction. And so then I say, it's not the milk, it's not the bread, it's what we've done to it here in the States. Now, I don't know if the same is true in England, but we are way too allergic to too many foods that were staples in many healthy people's diets.
And it's the additives they add in too, right? There's all these chemicals that we didn't have. Since the Industrial Revolution, so many more chemicals have been introduced. And I know in America, there's a lot of foods that are allowed to have certain chemicals or additives that are banned elsewhere in the world. So our bodies are not designed to process this many chemicals and additives that are alien to us, that are man-made. So I think that layer by layer, we've got more and more environmental toxins and things, that the air we breathe, there's so many more cars on the roads, there's so many more jets in the air, and other things on top of the pesticides and the glyphosites and everything else. There's only so much. Your glass is half full and you keep layering it then overspills, right?
That's correct. I mean, and I've worked with many Ayurvedic physicians, and we're aligned, and the drinking of milk and what's in the diet. And I'm always saying to people that if you really want to become a vegetarian, then you need to take a course in Indian cooking, because this civilization learned how to compensate the body with eliminating animal products. You should not be going to the health food store and buying something that's called almond milk or coconut milk. I said, they're not milk, they're processed foods. And so we're digressing to a point where nobody knows what's good or bad anymore. So we have to do a real reteaching. And I said to people, the reason I recommend the consumption of our probiotics on a daily basis is because of this problem. It's because we've been effectively destroying the microbiome. And the microbiome actually means that the total sum of all the genetic material of the bacteria that's found in the body. And the microbiota are the microbes themselves. And so this genetic material is far greater and prolific than our own. It's about 238,000 genes. And we have no idea what's being turned on and what's being turned off. And I said, I'm not in the business of promoting just the selling of my probiotics. And that's why I'm staying, because A, I would love to have good competition. B, I think we need to band together. I think especially as women and the nurturers of our families, to start, changing this whole concept of this, what I call chronic illness state. I don't know what it's like in England, but in the United States, the chronic illness among young people has literally exploded.
Really bad. It's getting bad. I mean, I'm getting babies in my clinic with IBD.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, little 6-month-old. I have people from all over the world. So I've had a few babies in countries that IBD was never even prevalent in, it's on the rise now quite a bit. I know that Canada and the States are quite high with it. England's coming up there, but even countries like India and Africa, it was hardly heard of because they eat a lot of fiber and insoluble fiber and things like that. And I think it really has to do with Western food and Western diet going into these countries. And
not only but the chemicals. I think it's a lot to do with the chemicals being introduced into their food chain.
Additives and chemicals for sure. And like you said, like with India, if you go to any Indian household and you look at what they cook with, we have spice racks, we have like a little container and it's got little tiny bowls in there, and you've got cumin, you've got mustard, you've got cardamom, you've got cinnamon, you've got cloves. Each of those have medicinal properties, even like oregano and things like that. And if you were sick, your grandmother, if you sprain your ankle or you cut your finger, my grandmother or my mother would put turmeric straight into your finger and bandage you. The bleeding would stop. Or they'd make a paste out of turmeric and put it on your swollen ankle. We didn't have to go to the chemist for anything because everything was in that medicine cabinet, was all in our culinary thing.
Correct. And I think we need to go back to that. My mother was also a certified pharmacist in Eastern Europe before World War II, but she wasn't for Western medication. She was a certified pharmacist using only herbs as natural remedies to help people. And I said, what a wonderful concept. And unfortunately, in the former Yugoslavia, where I come from, that was practiced. I don't know if they practice that anymore, but we had natural remedies for everything. And people knew the best families who had a tradition of producing these herbs or knowing these herbs that they would trust. And I think that needs to be rebuilt. That's why, my family in the fermented food business goes back 750 years in Macedonia, Northern Macedonia, where my father is from.
And a lot of countries around the world, everyone used some form of fermented food, didn't? Like in Eastern Europe, there was sauerkraut. In Korea, they do kimchi. In Japan, they do miso. In India, they do yogurt and pickles. And most countries around the world had their form of fermentation. Most countries around the world used their animal fats, which are now so controversial too. Like the ghee that we use in India, it's high in butyrate. It lines and feeds those colonocytes and the gut. And, you use it internally. Ayurvedic practitioners use it internally for the nose, and also plant-based foods. Like, we now know for the gut, we need 30 plant-based foods a week. I mean, I probably do that in a day because you can do little hacks like change your herbal tea. So if you're going for peppermint tea for one go, do chamomile. That's 2 sort of half plant-based points. And then if you're using cumin and mustard, and those are plant-based points. It's not just your fruits and your vegetables. You add your nuts and your seeds and everything else. And it gives it that diversity, right? But a lot of that's gone. And I know in Eastern Europe, they used to use it. I go to Eastern Europe frequently because it's across the pond it's just across, it's not far for us to visit these places. And you still see, like, I know when I've been to Bulgaria, still see them. The yogurts are great. And if you go to Portugal, places like that, the way that they do their homemade stuff is still amazing, and their fermented foods and the use of their spices and herbs that are fresh, Makes a big difference.
Absolutely. I think what we need to do is start teaching our young women. I think we have to start speaking up. I think we have to start talking about creating families. People are lonely. And the reason the fermented foods, I wanted to say this, no longer are enough is because what we've done to our environment. There's literally thousands of chemicals that are pervasive everywhere. In the United States alone, glyphosate, which is the chemical found in Roundup, that it was first registered as a potent antibiotic, which most people don't know, is almost everywhere. They found it in 99% of the foods that were available.
And they find so many chemicals in babies' umbilical cords too.
Yeah.
Like there's over 200 chemicals in newborn babies.
Right. And what I want to tell people is that in Western medicine, we give disease names, but they're all interrelated. And everybody says, well, how does autism affect me? Well, autism is more of an extreme form of the irregularity of the second brain communicating with the first brain. And I said that's prevalent in many other disease states, including Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. We just give it different names, but it's just slightly different mechanisms that are affecting us, our brain pattern. And what I'm about to say will shock everybody. And that's why we need to get our gut in balance. The rate of autism in the United States will reach 1 in 2 by 2030. And I'm dealing with another Indian psychiatrist who recommends our products. He's dealing in India. I had no idea that the rate of autism in India is even greater than it is in the United States. United States, it's like 1 in 30 right now. I'm waiting to hear the numbers from him, but he's traveled to India to open up new clinics, and he is recommending the use of our product. It's going to take a while to get it imported into India. But I just want people to know that our healthcare systems are already bankrupt. I don't know about England, but they're already bankrupt in the United States. So
England's terrible. We've got the NHS at its knees at the moment.
Yeah, well, listen, when I want everybody to listen to this, because I spoke to someone who gave a lecture at the Scripps Institute here in La Jolla, California, and they said, if the rate of autism in the United States reaches 1 in 2 by 2030, it will cost us $17 trillion to deal with that. $17 trillion. We are already bankrupt. I don't know what people are thinking. I don't think that they're thinking logically, but the chronic disease in North America it is the critical point, and it's not getting better. And all these people selling all this garbage are not really helping. And because I've been in this industry for 56 years, I've seen and heard everything. And this is not about business. This is about the health of our children, the health of our nations. And we are a global community. We have to figure out what is the ethical thing to do to get our children back into good health, mentally and physically. And we're all responsible because we all belong to each other. And as I said, that's why I'm staying on.
1 in 2 is half the population then.
That's right. And just think about what care those children need. If you've ever seen a parent who has to care for an autistic child, I said, they're my heroes, because I've walked out of movies with tears in my eyes. I could not sit through it to see what these poor parents have to deal with in one day. And then some of them are even having 2 children that are autistic. I can't imagine it. I mean, that parent has to be dedicated, if not one parent, both parents, to just taking care of these children. I mean, I've heard of young people in their 20s that still have to be diapered who are autistic. I mean, we have to look at these realities. It's not a scare tactic. It's a true reality. And I'm saying to people, let's start learning how to take care of our gut. Let's stop buying the hype. Let's, start digging, because we used to be able to rationally discern what works and what doesn't work. And people are not rational. They're going for pretty pink packaging. They're wasting their money on useless stuff. They're going to people who are really only have 7 minutes to spend on determining what their problem is, and we have to shift this paradigm. We cannot, as a global society, continue to do this.
Absolutely, totally.
You know,
so much that can be done too.
That's right. And I appreciate, I just want to say about Dr. Nishtha, I appreciate that she does have that 40-page questionnaire. And if you do go to see her in London, please know that that's so important. That shows to me that she cares, because you're not spending 7 minutes to, your body is a very complex instrument. It's extremely complex. It includes your thought, your actions, your community, what your background is, what you've been eating, where you've been, how many medications you've taken. There's so many questions that we have to learn about you before we can learn how to really truly help you. So I appreciate that she's taking all that time. And I just want you to know I'm here. We need to start fixing people's guts, because the one last statistic I want to give you, that in the United States, we spend $4.3 trillion for healthcare. 80% of that is spent on chronic disease, 80%. And unfortunately for Western medicine, that's not their forte. Western medicine is great if you need urgent care and God forbid you're in an accident, but it's not good at treating chronic problems. And we have to, figure out what we need to listen to, who we need to listen to turn this around, because we are not making progress. Things are not getting better. The numbers in these chronic illnesses are not getting better. So we, as I think women in the global community, have to start speaking up. We're saying, whatever we're doing, guys, it's not working. We need to change.
Totally agree with you. And it is about root cause medicine rather than just treating symptoms.
That's right. You can't, I tell everybody I'm fresh out of quick fixes, and I just don't have any miracles today. so I just
it's like Sherlock Holmes, it's detective work, but when you solve that puzzle, you can turn a life around.
Well, the good news is that doing the right thing, fixing your gut, fixing your diet, fixing your mental outlook will change you. And it all depends on you how quickly that change takes place, because nothing is irreversible and your body is magnificent. It's the most magnificent biological machine, and it has the ability to heal itself. Just give it the tools, both mentally and physically, to start healing itself. And let's stop just popping pills.
Hallelujah to that.
Okay, on that note, maybe we can do something in the future, and you can go over some of your case histories and where you've seen success, because I think stories of case histories really help people to adjust their own lives and, fix their own diets. Because I think there's a confusion, because now they're talking about certain vegetables producing toxins in the body. Then there's meats that produce toxins in the body. Then you shouldn't eat tomatoes. You shouldn't eat peppers. It's become so confusing. These poor people that call me up, I think they're just bewildered. They really don't know what to believe or what to do.
I can even go one better than that. I can have one of my patients come on. I have one girl, I have lots of success stories, but I know she doesn't mind. I know she won't mind being interviewed, because she's done a video testimonial for me too. She's Crohn's disease from the age of 10.
Oh.
She was on she's 27 now. She was on the last biologic before they said, we don't know what to do anymore. She was in such a state. She sent me an email to say, I have, for the first time since I was 10 years old, had a clear colonoscopy. Also that her medicines had caused her liver enzymes to escalate, and it caused an autoimmunity of her liver. And they said, we're not going to be able to fix that either. Your enzymes are going to keep elevating. We've managed to reverse that too. So she'd be a great person to talk to in person and say what we've done for her and how we did it and how she did it.
So, and we need to share, as I said, there's too much what I call inaccurate information. And so, I'm old school, and we used to share information, and it was honest, good information, because we had experts in each field of nutritional supplementation that was around. We've lost those people. In fact, I think I'm the only person from that old school that's still working. These people have gone, and it's a resource that we need to be teaching to the next generation. Otherwise, we're not going to be doing too well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're a legend anyway.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyway, I'm here to help. And I want to thank wonderful practitioners such as yourself for really dedicating yourself to helping your patients. We all need a lot of help, and let's talk again soon. Let's bring in some young people that can share their stories, so that other people will get incentivized to share their stories, and we can start helping each other. And by the way, we are a global community, because you're in London and here I am in Malibu Canyon, and we're talking to each other. It's evening for you and it's morning for me, but we're still talking.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm sorry about my dog. I don't know. She's normally really quiet. She's barking away. So if you hear her, I'm really sorry.
It's okay. It's okay that she wants her attention. I don't blame her.
Outside, and she's probably a fox.
All right. Well, listen, have a wonderful evening. Thank you all for joining us, and please join us next Thursday. We're going to have more exciting topics, and beautiful practitioners like Dr. Nishtha join us. And I'm so grateful for your time. Please stay well, and please stay connected.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.